for having us. We are going to cover navigating your career virtually. We have a lot of events coming up that we want to make sure that you guys are prepared for. And as we navigate this virtual landscape that we were in, we know how difficult it can be to still do everything on a computer. You're taking classes online, you're studying, and now we're talking about how to network and manage your career virtually. But one of the benefits of being in this virtual world, which means your reach is limitless. So instead of having to be limited to the employers that come to campus and those that might come in your classroom that are within driving distance of campus, you now have the opportunity to network and reach out to employers, alums, anyone that you want to network with across the country, across the globe in this virtual landscape. So we want to just give you some tips on how to do that. So the different types of virtual networking that you should really be focusing on right now is virtual informational interviews. If we were doing this in person, I would stop and we would do this show of hands and how many people have already created their LinkedIn profile, or how many people have a network that they reach out to talk about career paths and what your career paths are. So we're going to change it up a little bit so we can get through this presentation, but there's going to be time at the end for you to be able to ask some questions. But we want to make sure that you're aware of the different ways that you can take advantage of this virtual space. So informational interviews, that's an opportunity for you to reach out to anyone that's in a field that you are interested in. You can do a virtual interview with a faculty member who may have come from industry before they started teaching, right? So you have a lot of professors that are not just straight through academics and are teaching you content. They've lived it. They've worked in that field. They know people that are still currently working in that field. Set up an informational interview. Talk to someone about the day in the life. As a student at UTD, if you were aware of any of our career expos that we've had in the past, we had 3,000 and 4,000 students trying to buy the time of those 80 employers, 80 to 100 employers that were there, hoping to recruit you for internships and full-time. Now you have an opportunity to do it virtually. It does require, and I'm going to be honest with you, it's going to require a lot more preparation on your end now to attend these career fairs. No more walking into the activity center with your resume, walking around, not sure who you want to talk to, and maybe not having the courage to actually have that conversation, or with 3,000 students there, not wanting to wait the time to make it to the front of the line to talk to those employers. So we want to bring you those career fairs virtually, but that requires you're going to have to do some preparation, and we're going to talk about how to do that a little bit later. And the thing about what we're going to be able to do this semester is offer those company and industry specific career fairs instead of a catch for all and say it's an all majors career fair. We are now going to be able to bring you some industry specific. So you know that the employers there are employers that are looking to recruit you based on your career path. There's still employers that are wanting to come to the workshops, right? And come to your classes and present on topics. That's a great way for you to network. If you see that there's a guest speaker in one of your classroom presentations, this is a workshop you chose to attend, but in your classes, if you're having to log in at a certain time and interact with your professors and your instructors and your classmates, and they have a guest speaker, engage with them, jot their name down, find out how to reach out to them after class and have that informational interview with them. And then again, if you belong to any student organizations or you lead any student organizations, really think about connecting with employers. And I say employers, don't let me mislead you and for you to think that means that it has to be someone who's hiring, right? I'm not talking about the recruiter. I'm not necessarily talking about the hiring manager. So when I say employer, I'm saying that interchangeably as far as they work in an industry or for a company that you're interested in, and you want to learn more about that. So maybe they're not in a position to hire you, but they're in a position to talk about what they do. And so you want to have those conversations. And then as a student, you have an opportunity to belong to professional organizations. So in addition to your student orgs, you also can belong to the professional affiliated groups to learn more about that industry. You usually get a discount by being a student, Whereas it may cost me $200 for a membership, it may cost $25 or $35, or maybe even upwards to just $10 for a student membership of the same organization and the same benefits. And as I talked about before, the benefits of networking are countless. You got internships, they can lead to jobs. You got valuable mentorship and guidance, career advice, and that whole 7 degrees philosophy, that 7 degrees of separation. Who do you know? Who do they know? It's getting to that that network of everyone knowing that you are looking to learn more about a career, that you're ultimately looking for a job or an internship. Everyone knows someone. This world is very small. No matter where you go after school, you're going to run into someone who knows someone that you know, that graduated from the same pre-K that you graduated from, same high school, same student orgs that at a different chapter at another school. This world is very small. So having an opportunity to connect now and be intentional is really important. And you want to be able to advance your career after you graduate, and you want to start that now. I always talk about major doesn't necessarily equal career, but it helps. If you are studying and pursuing something that you're passionate about, and you can meet like-minded individuals that are in that same career path. And so being able to start now is going to be more beneficial than you wait until after graduation to start meeting people in that field. Because right now you're in school, so you have an opportunity to find out, what should I be learning in the classroom? What should I be involved in before I graduate that's going to help me set myself aside, even if the person you're talking to is not in a position to hire you. Social media. Everyone's on social media. It's about how you use it. So you want to use it to your benefit. So that social media piece you talk about, if you come to the Career Center, you talk to any professional, they're going to automatically go to LinkedIn, which we're going to talk about. I'm going to give you some tips on that as well. But Twitter is probably one of the most fitting forms of communication and networking that's out there, because you're finding those with mutual interest, right? So you have to still be professional if you're trying to use it in a platform to connect. But Twitter is an opportunity for you to, move away from the political fighting that might be taking place, but learn more, find like-minded individuals. And when I say that, not that you can't have differing opinions, but if you have like-minded individuals that are in the career path that you're interested, if you're interested in going into media relations, if you're interested in marketing, if you're interested in finance, right, you're going to find others that have that same passion. And so being able to use Twitter also is something that we highly recommend. And Facebook and Instagram, follow organizations. The following of the organizations is so important because you want to know what companies are doing, what are their big ticket items, what's on their plate, how did they make news, good or bad. You want to know what's going on in those industries, because at any time you could be asked to participate in the interview or just have a side conversation, and you want to be able to contribute to that conversation. So you want to be able to follow these groups and these organizations as well. And just make sure that your social media is clean and professional and someone that they would want to hire, right? So if you're on Facebook and you want it to be clear, and I say that, and I know this is not the generation that's still using Facebook, so I'm showing my age, but if you're on Facebook and you want to go ahead and make it private, so it's only the people that you know, it's your friends, it's your family. You're not in connecting with employers. You're not connecting with people that you work with that can see how you spend your downtime. That is completely fine, and we encourage that. We want you to have that place. That's what social media was invented for. So you want to have that piece. But the part that's going to be public out there, anyone can get access to that. It can be shared. But you want to make sure that if you're connecting on social media, whether it is Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, you want to make sure that you're putting that professional presence. Now get to the importance of LinkedIn, right? So LinkedIn, you're going to hear about that, usually the number one piece that anyone talks about with connecting. I recommend everyone on this call, if you don't already, and again, if we were in person, I kind of point people out and ask if you have a LinkedIn profile, how active is it? Did you do it for a student assignment? Did you create one, but you don't even remember your password to log in? We could have those conversations too. But as a college student, it is vital, right? Because there's a lot of employers that are still using LinkedIn. And I'm going to show you some information on the next screen about that. But there's a lot of employers that are using LinkedIn to just find out what their candidates are into, who they're connected to. Depending on the industry that you're going into, they want to know if you have a connection. Are you able to connect and build a network? Whether you're going into sales or if you're going into marketing, even if you're going into the sciences, they want to know that you are building a network outside of your professional or your personal interests. So LinkedIn, very important to networking. As I mentioned, a lot of recruiters, 95% of recruiters use LinkedIn to find candidates. It's an excellent source to find opportunities. Pieces that a lot of students, candidates don't realize is that there's a job section on LinkedIn, and it costs a significant amount of money for recruiters to post their jobs on LinkedIn. It's not the Indeeds, it's not a Google search where some of those things are free. They have to pay a pretty penny to post their jobs on LinkedIn, which means they're legit opportunities. Those are employers that have a need. They are looking for the best candidates. And with that, you also get to find out who posted the position. So you actually get to research the person who posted it and find out about if you have anything in common with them, whether they're just the recruiter and they post all positions, or they're the hiring manager that you would actually be working for. It's a great source for you to find opportunities, internships and full-time. You want to join professional groups like I mentioned before and find that information about specific majors. There are lots of groups that are about industry, the majors that you're pursuing, the interests that you have, and it's that opportunity to just have conversations with them, right? You want to be able to network. So LinkedIn, can't stress it enough. But just like any networking opportunity, it can't be one-sided. You shouldn't reach out to anyone and just start the conversation, I need a job. You know, social networking is about building relationships. It has to be a two-way street. You want to be able to do something for that person, especially if they don't know you, especially if it's just someone you met and you went to an event and you want to stay connected to them. That's great, but it shouldn't automatically turn into, well, I need a job, I need an internship. It should be, what can I also offer this person? How am I going to add value to this person's life? And so you want to think about that before you even reach out. For those that don't have an updated LinkedIn profile or are not aware, you can customize your URL. So I always recommend that when you create your LinkedIn profile, there's a piece on there where you can set a custom URL to your name. It's something that makes it very specific, because when you create a LinkedIn account, the first thing that pops up is a very generic URL for your LinkedIn. And if you put that on your resume or your email signature, where someone finds you and it's just a list of numbers and characters, that's not unique to you, right? You would never create a website with a whole bunch of letters and characters. So the same thing with a LinkedIn profile. Let that be your website that is easily to find. And although LinkedIn is not your resume, right? It's not going to encompass everything that you've done. It's pretty similar in the sense that you want to talk about your accomplishments. If you're a student, you want to talk about what you're studying. If you belong to student organizations, you want that in there. They can also check and see which professional groups you belong to, if you want to make that visible so they can see where you have similar interests and what do you want to accomplish. And just like a resume, it should be updated regularly. It's not something that you create your freshman year and don't look at again your senior year. You want to make sure that it's updated on a regular basis. And then also what's pretty important too, unlike your Facebook or your Twitter picture, is choosing a great photo. It doesn't have to be a professional photograph. You don't have to go to a studio and get it done, but it shouldn't be a mirror selfie, right? It shouldn't be something that you, stand in the mirror and take your picture. It should represent your professional side. And so here's just a good example of how a LinkedIn profile, you want to be able to build that reputation with them on a positive note. because this might be someone you may not meet again in person for a while, and you want to feel connected to them. So just make sure it's a professional picture and not a selfie. Also, once you build your profile and you feel confident that people would want to connect with you and that you can add benefit to being a part of their network as well, is ask for recommendations at least once a month. Even if it's once or twice, and you get some really good recommendations from a faculty member, from a classmate that you worked on a project. If you have a student employment job, part-time job, on or off campus, have someone write a recommendation about what they know about you as far as, not that you're a good friend, but what kind of worker you are, what kind of teammate are you, what kind of supervisor are you if you have an opportunity to lead. You want to make sure that that's staying up to date. And then cycle those out, right? You don't need to have a recommendation on there that's 4 years old and it's about a student project you worked on. And there's nothing wrong with keeping it on there, but you want to make sure that there's something as recent as a year ago, 6 months ago, 2 months ago, not the last time you had one on there was 4 years ago. So keep those updated. And we could do a whole session on LinkedIn, but I wanted to make sure that you guys felt confident to go out and at least get started. And you can definitely reach out to our office if you want someone to walk you through and help you build a great profile, and then connect with us in the office as well. And then the last step really is you want to make sure that you turn it on and that you're open to opportunities, because by doing that, it's allowing recruiters that, especially if you're close to graduation, but nothing wrong if we're starting this in the very beginning, but letting them know that you're open. That means recruiters can send you messages in your LinkedIn messages in your inbox and tell you about different opportunities. And so you want to always make sure that people are able to connect with you. Now, turn that off if you just landed a great job and you're about to relocate and you're about to start this great job. Turn that off. Don't always keep that on. You want to have that on only if you are seeking an opportunity to connect with someone. So that's really the short end on the LinkedIn piece, but it's really important, and it's a very important piece when you're thinking about using social media in this virtual world to connect with alums, right? You're a part of the UTD family. You're a comment forever. So you want to reach out to other comments. If you're a transfer student and you came from another institution, you came from a junior college, you want to connect with those that also have the same similar academic background as you, and you went to the same institution. That's a connection. You can reach out to those as well. So you want to make sure that you're always open to those opportunities. And again, make it a two-way street. Find things that you can send them. Send them an article about a company or a research topic. That's how you make it beneficial. You're staying in touch. I don't just connect with someone on LinkedIn and forget about them. I'm reaching out, I'm building this network. And the best part about being on there is most professionals, if they change jobs, they update their LinkedIn profile immediately, right? So now you know that that person has left XYZ company and is now working at ABC company. And they've relocated from this area to this area. You now know that instantly. And you can send them a message and congratulations on your new job. That's not always going to happen on Facebook and Twitter. They don't always reach out to their alumni association and tell them that they've changed jobs. But on LinkedIn, if they're someone who uses it actively, they're updating it almost immediately. So definitely make sure that you're keeping your profile up to date and you're using it wisely. So also being able to navigate virtual career fairs. So there's tons of opportunities. Of course, I'm going to talk a little bit about the ones that the University Career Center is going to present on and offer you guys this semester and most likely next semester as well, is we want to make sure that you have access to being able to navigate a virtual career fair. So 10 tips you need to know. And we use Handshake. So if you guys are not in Handshake, right? If you guys are not using Handshake, when we get off this presentation, you are going to go set up your Handshake account. You are going to make sure that it's active, up to date, so that you can navigate these career fairs and learn about these different jobs and events that are taking place in the Career Center. But number one, update the handshake profile. Like I mentioned, you want to make sure that the employers that are participating in these career fairs know about your graduation date, school year, major, GPA, your work authorization. Now, with our system, the best part about that is it automatically syncs with Orion. It automatically comes from your school record. So you usually don't have to touch that piece of it. So your major is what major you have declared with the university. It can't be, well, I'm really interested in marketing, but I'm over in arts and humanities. So that's fine, but it's going to recognize the major that you have with the university. So you want to have that piece updated. Then the job types, locations, and the roles that you're interested in needs to be specific to you. You want to make sure that that information is up to date. And then the piece that you can always customize is which courses have you taken, what skills do you want them to know about, and then what previous work experience. So that might be on your resume, but these employers are able to actually take a look at the profiles of the students that are participating in the career fair. So add those work experiences too from your resume, part-time jobs, internships, volunteer experience. Add that to your handshake profile. The most important, number one, you definitely have to have an updated profile, but I would say number two is the most important, is to find out which employers are going to attend. You want to find out who's going to be there. We would recommend that the same as if it was an in-person virtual or in-person career fair. The biggest mistake, and that's usually one of the things that our employers give us any negative feedback on the career fairs, is that the students who just came and they didn't do their research. They didn't know which company I was representing. They didn't know even what types of jobs we had. I had to spend the entire interaction telling them about what we do. And they don't want that. They want to know that you've done your research. So find out which employers are going to attend. All of the virtual fair details are on there. You can look and see right now, if you log in, who's already registered to attend our virtual career fairs. And then do the research. So you're going to find out who's going to be there, and then you're going to do the research. Every employer that's participating in our career fairs has a handshake profile, which means you can just click on their company website directly from the app or on your computer and find out who's going to be attending, and find out which positions they have posted, as much as you can about the company. And this is where I said these virtual career fairs require a lot more work than when they were in person, and you can just walk around and then choose at the last minute not to engage. These career fairs require you to actually sign up for sessions. You're going to actually have to decide who you want to connect with. It's not going from booth to booth to booth. It is a lot more detailed, which I prefer, because you get to be a lot more strategic. And the employers get to see students that are actually interested in their company who've done the research. So definitely do that before you sign up. Prepare a few talking points. The employers want to meet and learn more about you. This is an opportunity for them to actually have more one-on-one conversations or small group interactions, instead of trying to shake the hands of 2,000-3,000 people that are coming and going in the career fair setting. So write a quick elevator pitch about yourself. Who you are, what you're interested in, what your current interests are. What are you studying? Why are you interested in a career in this specific industry? And even though we're virtual, right? And we talk about dressing professionally, dress to impress, you want to do that on the day of the career fair. Even if it's in a virtual setting, dress the part. You want to make sure that every employee that you're interacting with, you're making that first good impression. So you are going to, even if you're sitting behind a computer, dress as though you already have that job. Dress as though you are going to meet them in person. So I'm not going to tell you what you have to have on from the waist down, right? So some of us make sure that the waist up, we're dressed professionally, we're good. Maybe we have on sweatpants at the below. I won't talk about that piece, but at least from the waist up, be professional, have that conversation, and set that first impression so that they want to call you back for a company interview after the career fair. And then find a quiet spot in a neutral background. We all know that working in this virtual setting, not everyone was prepared for. And even if you have all the preparation, just your limitations may be a smaller space, or you're sharing that space with a roommate or family members. You might be in a studio and there's no just blank wall, but prepare, right? It's only for a couple hours. It's finding a quiet spot where you're not going to have any interruptions. And even though everything is virtual right now, and that recruiter may have, you know, a kid walk past the screen, and their pet might walk past the screen, and we laugh about it, and we're trying to navigate this virtual world. You still want to have as much preparation done as possible, so they don't see your bed in the background. They don't want to see big distractions. They want to just be able to talk to you. The best thing about all of these virtual platforms is you can select a background, right? So even if you're blurring it out, or you put a UTD background, there's no reason that they have to see anything unpleasant behind you. So just find that quiet spot, have a neutral background, and keep the recruiter's eyes focused directly on you and not your surroundings. Arrive on time. It's very important that you're going to show up to your selected session on the start time. So again, you're going to select sessions. You're going to be invited into sessions. You're not just going to walk around an activity center anymore and try to connect with employers. You're going to sign up for these ahead of time. And so you want to make sure that you have a pre-select time, that you arrive on time and interact during that session. And so you want to be respectful of their time, just like you would want them to be respectful of yours. Maintain eye contact and practice active listening. Consider smiling and nodding, letting them know that you're still engaged, just like you would if it was in person. So a lot of these things are common sense when it comes to just interacting, so that they know that you're paying attention. But you also want to make sure that while you're on a computer screen, that you're still keeping that eye contact. You're not looking at your phone. And I say all these things because they've happened, right? Someone gets up and they get on the telephone, or they get a call and they make their camera go blank so they can handle what they're doing. They're like, oh, I'm still here, keep talking. This is a potential employer. That's not how you want to interact with them. So just make sure you have the time designated to devote to the career fairs, whether it's the one happening on campus or out in the community, because there are virtual career fairs happening all over the country through the different cities, the different organizations, the different companies are having career fairs. So this is just one of many ways for you to connect. And then ask questions. This is big. Just like in an interview, never leave an interview without having a list of prepared questions for each of the sessions that you attend. So you need to have those written down. You need to be prepared. That's the one time it's okay to look at a piece of paper and say, yes, I did come with questions. I want to learn more about your organization. What do you like working about at your organization? How long have you worked there? What are some of the pros and cons? What do you think some of the challenges are going to be with someone coming in during COVID and during this pandemic if they get selected to come work with your organization? How do you guys foster professional development? What opportunities are there for advancement and growth within your company? Have all those questions ready. And there's, again, nothing wrong with having them written down and reading from those, but listen. So I've been in interviews where students would literally ask, or a candidate would ask the question that we clearly have already answered, which means they weren't listening during the interview, and they had a list of 10 questions, and so they asked those questions even though they had already been covered. So you want to make sure that you're asking questions. And then the day after the fair, you're going to want to view and apply for the jobs and internships, right? So some of these companies, depending on if they have positions available right now, they're posting those positions, and they want to know that you've already applied before they even meet you at the career fair. Some of them aren't going to post them until after the career fair, and they'll send a link directly to the students that they're interested in. It's a mix. There's no one-size-fits-all approach for how employers are going to do this. But once you finish that fair and you've networked and you've connected with those recruiters, log in and apply for those jobs, whether they posted it in Handshake or they posted it on their company website. You want to follow up if you're interested. And just like interviews, the networking piece is also to find out if it's a good fit. I know it might seem like we have to be, picky right now. We can't be too picky right now. A job's a job, but it also has to be a good fit. So you may have heard something or learned something during those conversations where this is not going to be a good fit for me. This is not the organization that I'm interested in, or I didn't realize that they're headquartered here, but this particular position was going to be in Colorado, and I'm not willing to move to Colorado, so I'm not going to apply. These are opportunities for you to learn as much as possible about the companies. So the upcoming UTD Career Expos that we are having, if you are familiar with our department, we usually have a 2-day Career Expo where the first day focuses on all majors and the second day is STEM, right? But it ends up not being a lot of employers that can recruit or have recruiting budgets to travel to campuses out of ATech or A&H or the medical field. So it ends up being a lot of business and a lot of engineering, which is great, but we haven't been able to tap into those employers that can't pay a lot of money to travel to multiple campuses and pay the registration fees because they only have 1 or 2 positions open, where some of these other companies may be recruiting for 100 to 200 positions nationwide. And so it makes sense for them to be able to travel around. So if there was anything positive that happened in this pandemic and going virtual, is we get to connect with employers from all over the country now. And so we're going to do some industry specific. So our first one is just around the corner next week. Mark your calendars. If you are interested in healthcare, regardless of your major, so these are open to all students, but regardless of your major, we're having a healthcare career expo, but it is targeting a lot of those students that are in NSM and BBS that want to work in the healthcare field. But again, open to every student. The following week, we're going to do public service and education. So those that are in EPS and IS, all students welcome again, but those that are interested in law enforcement and nonprofits and working for the government and working in education field and school districts, come on October 14th. Then on the 21st, that following week, from 11 to 5, a couple more hours extended into the evening, we're having our STEAM Career Expo. So again, science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics, that encompasses every other school that we have here at UTD. We're having that STEAM Career Expo from 11 to 5. And that's going to be probably our most popular. It encompasses a lot more of our schools, but these are open to all students. Attend all 3 if you want to. But again, they're very specific, and so the employers that are coming are looking for specific students that have an interest in their fields. So do the research before you go. Come prepared, have that resume critiqued by someone in the Career Center to make sure that you're able to market yourself effectively. So those are our 3 upcoming events. Those were 10 tips on how to make sure that you can navigate in this virtual Career Expo world. And then we talked a lot about LinkedIn and how to build a profile and how to connect with alums and other people that you're interested in, and do some informational interviews and email and correspond to find out about what you need to do while you're still a student here at UTD to make sure that you are market ready when it comes time for you to graduate. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brianna, who again was over our experiential learning and experiential programs here in the University Career Center. And I'm going to turn it over to her.
Thank you, Keri. Give me feedback. Give me 1 second. All right. Okay, that's better. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today. And so I get the fun pleasure of talking about experiential learning and what that even means and how it is beneficial to you. And so this is experiential learning, ways you can engage. And so experiential learning essentially is any type of experience that you can get that's a hands-on real world experience related to your future career or your job path. And so at UT Dallas, we have a few ways that experiential learning is seen. And so there's a lot of other types of experiential learning, but I decided to choose the ones that you were probably most familiar with. And so we have internships, externships, which we'll talk a little bit more about later, study abroad, practicums, and co-ops. And so just by a show of virtual hands, since I can kind of see how many hands pop up, if you have completed an internship, can you please put up your virtual hand for me? Anybody. And if you don't know where the hand is at the top of the bar. Okay, I see, I believe it's Rita. Rita has done an internship. Okay, so everyone else should be looking for an internship. Oh, there's another one, Yarly. Yarly has done an internship. Okay, thank you. All righty, so just 2 out of the crowd today. So next question is how many students want to do an internship? So let me see those virtual hands on if you wanted to. Okay, there go all the hands. And so definitely we want you to get those opportunities. It is a great experience. And so for my part of the presentation today, we'll talk about, it will focus more on internships and externships. But at any time, if you need help or you have questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or to my team, and I'll be putting our information in the chat later, okay? And then Keri, next slide, thank you. And so Keri had touched upon the different things that employers are looking for. And so for our Career Center, we follow the NACE competency guidelines. And so NACE essentially is the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And they come together and they survey students, they survey employers, and then they come up with things that both sides need to know, essentially. So they bring us all together. And they have come up with 8 competencies that I feel are important for you to know. So that way, when you're preparing for your internship search or your job search, you know exactly what are those skills that employers are looking for from a high level overview. And so first is critical thinking, problem solving skills, oral and written communication skills, teamwork, collaboration, overall career management, information and technology application, leadership skills, professionalism and work ethic, and then global and intercultural fluency. And so whenever you are looking and thinking about what do I need to put on my resume? What do I need to put in my handshake profile? What do I need to showcase about me as a student? Keep some of these core competencies in mind and then ask yourself, are my materials reflecting the things that I know employers are looking for from a high level overview? And then of course, if you're going into applying for the jobs and internships, you want to read and see what those job requirements are that they're asking for that are a little bit more tangible. And so you want to incorporate both into your overall profile. So Keri, next slide. Next slide, please. Let me see.
I'm pressing. I don't know why it's not moving.
I wonder if I request control, will it take it? Will I be able to have it?
Let's see.
It could be the Wi-Fi.
Let's see why it's not doing it. Please hold.
Yeah.
I wish Teams had built-in music that we could play for the technical difficulties, like the fun that we all endure.
Trust me too. I think about that all the time. And when I have heard music played, it's like, you know, kind of scratchy and it doesn't really work out that well. So, oh goodness. Well, while we are focusing, while the presentation is being rerouted, I wanted to just kind of hear from some of the students and just see if we had any initial questions about internships, because today I have only a limited time to share everything I know, but I wanted to know if there was any kind of high level, just initial questions that you all had. Feel free to turn on your mics and then ask any questions that you have, especially for those who haven't completed an internship yet but want to. Any questions?
Yeah, I guess I have a question. So in terms of knowing what a good internship is, because I know that a lot might not, or some might not be beneficial or really add anything to our resume, how would we go about figuring out which ones are actually going to benefit us?
That's a great question. Really good question, and especially now, even more important. I would say whenever you're searching for an internship, and we'll talk a little bit more in this about in the presentation on how to prepare for that. But when you're determining if an employer is going to provide a good experience, I would say definitely that in your interview, just as much as they're interviewing you, you're interviewing them. And so if it doesn't sound like the program is really coordinated, or it doesn't sound like you're going to get the support from a supervisor or a team lead, ask those really tough questions. And it's not to be rude, it's just so that way you understand what their program has looked like in the past and what they're essentially promising you. And so I know a lot of students put weight between unpaid and paid internships, but I've seen some paid internships and paid great that were terrible experiences for the student, and they didn't ask the questions on the front end on what they were really going to be doing and what they were going to be learning from this experience. And so I definitely would say during that interview and in your research, take a look at what other students have said. Ask them, what would your last intern say about their company and the company and their experience as an intern here, and just kind of see what they say and check their body language and their reaction if it's a virtual or in-person call. And so you have to kind of pick up on some of those cues sometimes. But Handshake is great because if there's other students from other universities who have completed that internship and you found the internship on Handshake, it will tell you kind of what their experience was. And so check that out. And then of course there's Glassdoor that also gives some different information, which you have to kind of take with a grain of salt sometimes, but we can definitely talk more about that if you have additional questions. And I see the PowerPoint is back up. So thank you so much, Keri. And so I will continue. So why are internships important? Personally, you might just want to go ahead and get that experience. And so I've known students to do experiences in fields completely outside of their comfort zone because they, had an interest. And so to them, it was more personally meaningful versus necessarily something that's related to their major or their overall career goals. Financially, and so obviously money, it's a job, and so you should get paid. We do have some unpaid experiences, but typically we see those more with nonprofits and not-for-profit companies. And so we try to get as many paid experiences in Handshake as possible. And then academically, depending on your major, you might be required to do an internship to satisfy your degree requirements. So keep that in mind. And then professionally, overall for your resume and moving forward for your future career, it's great to have that experience on your resume. I know sometimes it can seem like employers are only hiring interns that have had previous work experience, but that's not necessarily true. They want to know what skills you can bring and what exciting ideas you can bring to their company. And so even if you've had, I think as Keri mentioned, even if you've had a student worker job or some other experience, put that on the resume and then still apply for those opportunities. Because once you land that internship, that is a great way for you to connect with employers moving forward and talk about that experience whenever you go on to apply for other experiences. So preparing for your internship search. So the process, you want to make sure you are very intentional with this process. Sometimes I meet with students and they will have their resume ready and then they just kind of jump out there with no plan. And so I wouldn't encourage that. I would definitely take a step back, your time to evaluate. Think about what your career interests are, your values, what are those motivated skills, research internship opportunities. And then something that has come up more recently than not is decide if you want to do a remote experience or an in-person experience. There are a lot of great remote internships out there, but it's all based on how you learn. And so if you feel that you would be more comfortable in an in-person setting, seek those opportunities. If you're open to both, then you have a wider net that you're able to pull from. Or if you're only in the position to seek remote opportunities, I would say go for those. Then next you want to strategize, create yourself a timeline. And so most students, I say most very loosely, do internships in their junior and senior year, or obviously in master's and above. But you can do an internship pretty much at any time. It really is about the skill set and what you're qualified to do. The university has rules around getting internship for credit depending on what semester you're in, but if you want to just do an experience for yourself, you're more than welcome to do that. And so create yourself a timeline. Then from there, create a resume in that 2-minute introduction that Keri was mentioning. It's so important. When you're meeting with employers, you want to be able to speak about yourself, speak about your experiences thus far, and give them a story. Tell them who you are, and bring them in so that way they want to ask more questions about you. And then next, you want to start thinking about how you can make those connections in networking, especially right now with us being virtual. And then next, seek support. And so in the Career Center, you were able to meet with a career consultant. You're able to meet with myself or someone from my team. And so it's all about going out and building those connections. And if you need help, reaching out. And so there's a lot of services on campus that are there to support you. And then next, you want to put those things into practice. And so practice that 2-minute introduction speech over and over and over again with your friends. But the goal is that you have to kind of make it sound casual. So you have to kind of come up with different ad libs, but the content and the base of that 2-minute introduction should be the same. And so practice that with like a friend, a roommate, come in the Career Center, practice with us. We have some great tools online and resources that allow you to practice with yourself. And so we have it all. And so we definitely want you to feel supported there. Then you want to practice your interviewing skills. Same thing, come in and see us. We have a great resource online called Interview Stream that allows you to video record an interview, and those can be preset questions or questions that are determined by the system. And then you can answer them, share them with your consultant, share them with your friends for feedback. And so you want to keep practicing those skills. And then next would be obviously get into the habit of networking and actually making those connections. And so if you feel more comfortable making those connections in person or in LinkedIn, I would say definitely start thinking about how you're going to connect to them. What are you going to reach out and say? If you are in different professional settings where you've heard different employers speak, reach out to them right away on LinkedIn and just say, hey, thank you so much for meeting with me today at the UT Dallas Career Expo. I had a great time discussing blah, 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 blah. Let's connect. And that's all you have to say in that initial message request on LinkedIn. And then last but not least, apply. And so when you're applying, apply to jobs that are interesting to you, that you qualify for, and don't get too hung up on some of the qualifications. You know, sometimes I've seen students miss out on opportunities because they felt they weren't qualified. I would say if they're not saying anything is necessarily required, then go ahead and apply. Those items that are in the required field, those are going to be the things that they're definitely looking for. If there are other preferred qualifications and you don't necessarily have those, then still go ahead and apply. Next slide. And so we have some great internship search tools available to you. Obviously, Google, sometimes a simple Google search will get you the results that you're looking for. We want you to use Handshake and Vault. And Vault is available on our website, but essentially there are internship opportunities as well as research Vault guides in this platform. And the Vault guides are really cool because they are updating that information constantly. So if you are wanting to find out information about a field that is kind of hard to find information about, check Vault, see if they have it. And then as well, they do have internship opportunities posted there. And then Handshake. Oh, I can't stress to you enough how important Handshake is. And so I know Keri touched on it, but you have to update your profile. You have to be active in Handshake, make an appointment with the Career Center, search for those internships, and really utilize it. And then there's a lot of times where employers are just having info sessions and students sometimes don't show up because they're not there. So make sure that you are checking your event tab in your Handshake portal as well. Alrighty, so that is pretty much what I had to give you briefly about internships. I'm going to cover Explore the Wow. And so Explore the Wow is our externship program. And I know some of you probably have never heard of the word externship, but essentially an externship is a job shadowing program. And ours is Explore the Wow. And so it gives you the opportunities to connect with alumni and employers in your major in different industries, different career paths. And essentially it's you shadowing them and seeing what they do on a day-to-day basis. And so this is really, really a great program for those who are maybe not ready to commit to a full-time internship or a part-time internship, but still want to get that insider knowledge about the company and how they work and what positions look like. And so I would definitely encourage Explore the Wow. And so next slide. And so essentially how it works, we will be matching students with our data bank of employers. And so we reach out to employers and say, hey, are you interested in hosting a student? They say yes. And so those experiences can be either virtual or in person. And then from there, we'll connect and match the employer with the student. And so from there, it's really up to the employer to determine the time. We don't recommend it go longer than about 4 weeks. But really, it's a great way for you to find some good into some of these companies. And so where you might not have been able to get any kind of insight, you now have an inside contact person, and you get to see what they do on a day-to-day basis. And so these are some of our past companies that we've worked with. And so we are building more and more employers every single day. And so I am going to drop in the chat our link to our externship website. And on there, you can apply. And so there's not a lot of requirements for you to apply. And then that just puts you in the data bank. And then once we have an employer that is matched what you're looking for, we'll connect you. So don't feel like we have forgotten about you or we're not reaching out. We're just waiting for the perfect employer to connect you with. Next slide. So overall benefits, as I mentioned, real world career knowledge and experience, expand your career network, find a lifelong mentor, and then get your foot in the door for potential jobs and internships. And so very, very important. I will also be dropping in the chat a flyer for the Explore the Wow program that explains a little bit more so that way you'll be able to go back in research if you have any questions. So between internships and externships, you might be asking yourself, okay, how do I stand out? How do I get these opportunities? First things first is be yourself. People want someone who is genuine. And so they have enough of someone else. They want people who are genuine. And so always be yourself. Be responsive, reliable, adaptable as possible, especially during this time. People need to be able to reach you. And so it kind of goes to the bullet down there at the bottom, but be sure you're answering your phone and that you have a good voicemail set up. I know I'm really bad about answering my phone also, but you want to make sure that you're doing that because someone could be reaching out to you for an opportunity. And then you want to show your overall interest and knowledge in the company. They like to know that you've done a little bit of research about them. You don't have to know everything, but you at least want to know the basics. What do they do? What is their business plan? Who are their competitors? You know, what are they known for? You want to know these things. And so that way you can have a conversation. And then the last thing is just get involved in network. And so essentially this whole presentation has been about the importance of networking. It's so, so important. And so I encourage each of y'all to do just that. We do have some different sessions coming up that I think would be beneficial to you. All of our events are in Handshake. I am going to point out the Explore the World of Work info session. So those who are wanting to know more or thinking about an externship, please, please, please go to that info session. It's on October 13th at 4 p.m. And so we do have some other great events there. So feel free to take a picture of the screen and then go search for those events in Handshake. And then I think we are all at questions. And so Keri and team, I guess now we can open up the floor. I know we have just a few more minutes and to see if there's any questions.
Brianna, there's a question in the chat from Sophia. Is there a deadline for the Explore the Wow program application?
Great question. And so one thing I did not mention, which I should have, I apologize, is that we have now made the Explore the Wild program a year-long program, so a rolling program essentially. So if you've heard of this program before in the past, we only offered it during spring break, and it was only the week of spring break. So now you have the opportunity to do this, year round, or while we're in semester, of course. And so you can apply at any time. And then depending on if you're wanting to do the rolling program, or if you're wanting to do one of our more isolated programs, because we'll still have the spring break program, and then we do another week-long experience in the summer. But I would say there's not necessarily a deadline for the application. You just want to go ahead and get in there so that way your name is in our database. A great question. You're welcome.
And I do see that there are several questions that are typed, so I'll read the chat afterwards, and maybe we can reach out because they seem like they're very industry specific. I saw some marketing, and so we'll reach out to you separately to answer those questions. We want to make sure that we respond to those as well.
Thank you both so much for your time today. I sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. And anybody who was on this call, please reach out to us, schedule an appointment with your career consultant, or reach out to me and Brianna individually. This is a great opportunity to connect with students that we normally don't get to interact with. So reach out to us directly or the Career Center, but update your Handshake profile. If you get nothing else out of this, update your Handshake profile, start looking for those opportunities. Even if you're not in a position for an internship or job right now, preparing to be prepared when that opportunity presents itself is the biggest piece of advice we can give any student that's here.
I think that should be a bumper sticker, Keri, preparing to be prepared, University Career Center. Yes, I love it. Thank y'all. Thank you, students. Have a good rest of your day. We appreciate you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to First Generation Comments and click on the bell to make sure that you're notified every time we upload, premiere, and go live.